I also think that as a Jewish person, like, I was fed a huge amount of lies about Israel.
Me too. The entire life.
Sometimes we hear Jews in America saying that they were lied to when it comes to the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. They use the truth that may be real, but as weapons to compete with each other. Now, Jews in America all have some sort of a Jewish experience. Some go to Jewish day schools, some summer camps, some maybe once in a while go to synagogue, but they have a relationship with somewhat of a Jewish community for the most part. It's usually very positive things that are said about Israel, about the Jewish people, about their history. There's no in-depth conversation about the narrative and the conflict that Palestinians go through. So it's not necessarily that they were lied to, but there's a whole part of the truth that was left out of the story of our cousins, the Palestinians, what they experience, where they come from, what they've gone through, and what they aspire. And because they're lacking that part of the truth, when they come to university campuses and face this narrative for their first time, and hear a story of human beings that are suffering, that are from that same land that they come from, and very likely descend from the same people that they descend from, naturally they feel that they were lied to, not necessarily because lies were told to them, but because the whole truth wasn't told to them.
I went to Jewish elementary and Jewish high school. I was taught to love Israel. We're singing the Hatikva, the national anthem, we're singing all these Jewish songs, and I'm finally starting to realize how brainwashed I've been.
I think it's the responsibility of educators and school systems and communities and rabbis to really be able to tell the full story of the land when talking about Israel, in order to avoid many Jews turning their backs or feeling betrayed when they find out the rest of the story later on.
Do you think any sugarcoating is needed?
No, I think the full truth is needed. If you talk about the Palestinian struggles and the Israeli struggles without understanding the context, then you don't really care about the full picture in order to deal with it. You're using struggles taken out of context and cherry-picked in order to push an agenda of convincing one side that the other side is wrong. And this is experienced by both sides. Many Israelis are not taught about Palestinians, and if they hear about Palestinians, it's usually in a very negative context. Many Palestinians don't have relations with Israelis, have an anti-normalization policy where they can't even engage with anything connected to Israel, and usually experience Israel in a very negative light. When you create that reality where there's a lacking of truth of both sides, they use the truth that may be real, but as weapons to compete with each other. And there's no reality where Israelis or Palestinians will disappear. So the only way to actually move forward is to understand what are the sufferings that both peoples go through and what are the aspirations that both people have, in order to create a reality that focuses on bringing all those aspects together for us to be able to transcend.
You're probably the most reasonable person I've ever talked to about this, not gonna lie.
Jews have an inherent nature for the most part to want to help the world. I mean, it's in our mission statement for thousands of years. Tikkun olam and ol hagoyim, healing the world and empowering other nations. So naturally, as individuals, we want to care about other people. So when a Jew grows up and all of a sudden goes to university and faces a narrative of people talking about the plight of the Palestinians, their struggles, their aspirations, what they go through, their history, and they feel lied to because this part of the story of the land and the conflict that they thought they were so confident and that they knew everything about was missing. And naturally, they start rejecting the side that they came from. And many Jews, unfortunately, when they feel lied to about the context, although it wasn't necessarily false information given to them, it was a lack of information provided for them, end up going to spaces that become anti-Jewish and anti-Israel.
Divesting our funds from genocide and apartheid and directing them towards peace and justice.
Being against Israel is not the way of being pro the Palestinians. Yes, we should talk about what Palestinians go through, care about it, and work to fix it, because Israel has the power, thus the responsibility, to change the equation and have a different outcome. However, it's not about using the struggles of Palestinians and only taking them when they fit against Israel, taking the entire context out of it so we don't even understand why we're in this situation to begin with, and then using that in order to delegitimize and demonize the Jewish people and their connection to their homeland.
Every Jew should get on their knees and beg for forgiveness for the theft of Palestine.
Israel is notorious for creating propaganda that sides their one-sided massacre against Palestinians.
They talk about that suffering to lure students and convince them that the only way to help the Palestinian cause is by destroying Israel. anyone who's preaching a message that the only way to support Israel is by destroying Palestinians, or the only way to support Palestinians is by destroying Israel, is naturally pushing a zero-sum game that will never work on this land. There will be no reality where either population disappears. So as long as we continue this approach of using one identity against the aspirations of the other, this will only create a reality where both sides are so triggered that we won't even be able to communicate. And the only way we can create a better reality is by first humanizing one another, understanding what we both go through, what we both need, and then together starting a path in order to get there.